r/AskReddit. What did the pandemic ruin more than we realize? I'm not sure if anyone else feels the same way, but my perception of time hasn't really returned back to normal since then. I kept a journal around that time and noted that weeks feel fast and slow. It's odd. Like, when Friday comes around, I'd think, damn, a week passed already, but at the same time, a news article from last week would feel like it was from ages ago. It's like prison time. Every individual moment feels like an eternity, but then you realize it's been a year since you've really thought about it and you remember none of it. Just moving through Jello at the speed of light. It ruined me on traffic. For one glorious year, as an essential worker, I had the roads almost entirely to myself. It was beautiful. I'm an electrician. The ability to drive to almost anywhere in less than half the time it takes now. Sigh. Those were the good old days. I feel this so hard. I got so spoiled with my commute. Now it's back to the bullshit. Grocery shopping at 2 AM was the best thing ever. Now I have to shop with the rest of you hooligans and it ducking sucks. I work second shift. Get off at 11 PM. Used to do all my shopping after work. Now everything is closed by the time I get off and I have to do all my shopping during the day. I hate it so much. Used to be plenty of options to grab a quick bite to eat on the way home as well. Half the time even McDonald's is closed by the time I leave work nowadays. Nothing being 24 hours anymore is awful. My husband and I often work late, and if we get off after 10 there's no place to grab a quick bite. Maybe one of the Taco Bells in town will still be open, but that's about it, and that's if they were open at all because of staffing issues. It's just so weird now. Night shift people lives. Nothing is ever open late anymore. Just went into the night shift recently and realized this. No food, no errands. There's the gyms and your home, and that's your life. Gyms aren't open either where I'm at. No more 24-hour Planet Fitness. They close at 12 and open at 6. My perception on money. I worked so hard to pay off debt, save up for a new house, get promotions. Now with the rise of housing costs and inflation, I feel like money is literally such a made up thing and I have no control over anything, even with all the right decisions. 2 steps forwards, followed by 3 steps backwards. As someone who saw the dot-com fall and the 2008 shenanigans and then this, it all feels like it feels like there is just no point to working harder at all. These fat cats just come in, take a giant shit on all the grit in the litter box and walk away expecting someone else to clean it, and then someone does. They get loans that are forgiven. They get bailed out. They get off with no repercussions and we are just left, covered in excrement. I feel like everyone is more bitter now, like we all saw through the sham of society. Time feels different now. Things just feel off compared to pre-2020. When my country went into lockdown, I was free to continue working, and traffic was essentially non-existent. As soon as lockdowns finished, it seemed as though there was a huge increase in aggression on the road. People became so much more dumb and aggressive when driving. Price of eating out. Fast food is now almost the same price as a cheap sit-down restaurant pre-COVID. It's often cheaper to go to a fast casual sit-down than to go to McDonald's for my family of 3. This might just be local, but where I live, a shit ton of businesses closed. I mean, half of them were closed, not just because of the shutdown, they were closed permanently. I think the pandemic was the nail in the coffin for a lot of businesses that were already on the edge of just making it, and others have continued to struggle because, well, things are just more expensive. I've noticed I no longer go to sit-down restaurants because my grocery bills are so expensive. Why go spend $40, $50 for one meal when it costs $150 to $200 every 2 weeks for groceries? It just doesn't make sense anymore for a lot of people. I think the dining experience changed as a whole post-pandemic. Lots of places had to resort to DoorDash type businesses to make up for losses, and that in itself has changed the dining experience. No school on snow days. Our town directly said that snow days are a joyful part of childhood and they would keep snow days. I'm sure it also has to do with power outages. If some kids don't have power and can't tune in, or if teachers from other towns don't have power and can't teach. But I thought it was a nice sentiment. I'm not even school anymore and I'm outraged about that. As a teacher, I can say that it's definitely affected kids in a way people don't realize. Kids who had their first year of school, or even second, during the pandemic act quite different than kids who had a normal introduction to school. Many of them seem to have fewer social skills and higher anxiety than kids from previous years. I work in preschool and this year we have at least 3x the amount of special needs, speech and language delay, children. Yes, this was found in a recent systematic review and meta-analysis. An approximate 70% increase in communication impairment in children born during the first year of the pandemic. It's not related to maternal infection by SARS-CoV-2. Interestingly, the first year of life during the COVID-19 pandemic, regardless of maternal infection, was significantly associated with the risk of communication delay among the offspring. Seems to be a crucial first year of life when children were most affected by lockdowns and reduced interactions with adults, family, friends, relatives and grandparents, etc. that delayed language development. Hesame, K. et al. 2022. COVID-19 Pandemic and Infant Neurodevelopmental Impairment. A Systematic Review and Meta-Analysis. Ask Me Anything Network Open. 510. pp. E2238941 E2238941. We were never in this together. I'm in healthcare. We were heroes when needed, but when we are flexed off the schedule without pay. I'm sure the office folks that aren't on the floor providing the actual care get paid though. I no longer recommend going into healthcare for anybody. Heroes only exist to make the idea of death more palatable to the average person. A healthcare worker who died as a result of exposure to an unknown pathogen with no protective equipment is sad. But a hero who gave their life in protecting their community from a new disease with no regard for their own safety can be spun as a feel-good story by the ones in charge so they don't have to answer for their bullshit. It's the same with military heroes who risk their lives on a suicide mission to save their friends in a war that never should have happened. Orchestrated by those who don't feel the consequences. In most stories the hero saves the day and is showered in gifts, wealth, and status. But we go right back to being expendable. Faceless numbers as soon as we are no longer a convenient scapegoat. Used car market is completely ducked, as are flight prices. It's scary. I have an older car and I'm one accident away from not being able to afford a new vehicle. Before you could get a decent car for $10,000 to $15,000, and now in the area of the US I live I saw a 1999 with 250k miles going for $12,000. Car lots in my area are learned up charging for their cars on their lot. Ford Mavericks, base are $19,000, are going for around $50,000. I have a fairly inexpensive luxury car, compared to say, BMWs, Mercedes etc. that I bought used with very low mileage, and I was shocked to find out I could sell it back in late 2021 with 25k more miles on it for more than I bought it. I haven't checked lately, but those mid to end 2021 used car prices were completely nuts. The dealership that I bought it from 5 years ago used to send repeated emails asking if I'd be willing to sell it back to them. WTF. The cost of living is pretty ducked. Food prices just keep going up. We're buying less than ever, and more generic, less premium version of everything. And yet we're paying easily twice as much as our far more luxurious and full cart of groceries we were getting in 2010. Every single ducking time I go to the store they've raised prices on something. I tend to buy a lot of the same things frequently, so I am able to keep track of prices. I was getting this bag of iceberg lettuce for $2.19 a couple weeks ago and they just popped it up to $2.99. That's a crazy jump. I can't afford like 90% of the stuff in there anymore. It's like $5 for a can of goddamn soup. Soup used to be cheap food that you could stock up on. Now it's a luxury item. Any type of 24/7 business is just a memory. I can't trust the hours of any business on Google anymore. Places just close whenever the duck now. I walked 2 miles to get to coffee at 6 p.m. and the building was completely dark. Google said they were open until 9. I went to go get Taco Bell at 10 o'clock and it was closed. I'm sorry you had to go through that. We are in this together. Don't give up. White Castle 2. The days of getting a sack of murder burgers or tacos at 2 or 3 in the morning are over. Very sad. Even the bars are closing at 12 midnight. Essential versus non-essential employees, better known as those who had to show up physically in person, and those allowed to stay home. Biggest division in the workplace. Mentally it will never be the same in the workplace. Yes, I am so glad that people had the ability to work from home and still meet their financial needs. I'm so glad that those resources were available, and there is no nostalgia for quarantine for the essential workers. It's hard to hear others talk about how they kept themselves busy or took up a new hobby when I can only remember being so overwhelmed and stressed. It's hard to hear others talk about how they kept themselves busy or took up a new hobby when I can only remember being so overwhelmed and stressed. Yep, I hated working the pandemic. I was managing a store and I remember so many pissed customers who were upset we didn't have cleaning supplies, toilet paper, etc. as if it was our fault. Feels like it's a more to each their own sense of living. People don't appear to be as connected as before the pandemic. The pandemic brought me much closer to my wife and son. It also made me incredibly jaded, cynical and much less trusting of everyone outside of these walls. Independent smaller/DIY music venues never really recovered. This has really left a void in my life. I used to go to house shows a lot as well, and those are all gone unless it's a college band. I'm hoping it will slowly recover. Speaking of college bands, they're all cover bands now. There's hardly any new musicians playing, mostly original music. It's so weird. Edit. Some of you are responding like this you're wrong, cause that's not how it works in my largely populated city. The lockdowns happened during my last semester of university. I've never had an in-person job, only work from home, which I realize is a blessing but also makes it feel like IDK, like it's not real. I have no work friends. Have never met my supervisor in person. I do all my work from my desk in my room. It feels like pretend. I worked for almost a year during COVID for a company without meeting anyone in person. It was like a really dull video game until I met people. Now it's like a really stressful video game. Sometimes I break eye contact in meeting just to remind myself I'm not there with everybody on the meeting. I'm really alone. Same for me, except my last 2 years of college were virtual, and then I got a virtual job, and now I have all sorts of mental issues because wasting your youth through a screen is a very ducking, weird and twisted way to live. COVID lockdowns ruined my 20s. I'm in my 40s, but the pandemic really cut the list of friends I socialized with in half. We got out of the habit of seeing one another, and now that things are back to normal, we just made a habit out of not having dinner dates and stuff like that. When I realized this was happening, it made me look back and realize that I was the one who used to plan things and reach out. I made the conscious decision to stop being the one who always reached out, called and texted, and I now see that I'm only in touch with half the people that I used to be. Edit. I am not talking about socially awkward, depressed, introverted people. If anything, I'm the introvert, and I still always made a point to reach out. I'm referring to people who still go out, celebrate holidays and birthdays and socialize. Just not with me anymore apparently. There are only so many times I can try and make plans with people who don't do the same with me. I cannot be the one putting 100% into a friendship. This has been happening long before COVID. There are people out there who do all the work in the friendships, and sometimes they realize later on they were the ones calling the friends, or going to hang out with them, etc. I figured this out with my friends back then pretty quick. Now they are just acquaintances and nothing more. No point in wasting time on someone who never puts in any effort. Edit. Adding this in since I keep seeing so many comments saying stuff like but sometimes they are nervous, anxious, blah blah blah. Nope. These people never put in any effort. It was always me calling them, going over to their house to hang out, making plans ahead of time to see if they want to hang out, etc. A lot of the time it would be us hanging out playing video games at my house or theirs, and or watching YouTube videos back in the day. Cause I live in ND and there is nothing fun to do here. Friendships require 2 people putting in at least some effort. If only one person is putting in any effort, then it's not really much of a friendship at that point. Sure, there are some that are like what is being described here, where one person does all the work, and if both are fine with that, great. But most people don't want to be the only one putting in any effort. Like if the other person who almost never messages or makes an effort does every once in a blue moon, then at least there is that. But with the people I mentioned above, you could go at least a year without ever hearing from them again, even when they have opportunities. The health system is wrecked. Way too many nurses got burnt out and left the profession. Not just nurses. Paramedics got hit hard. At one point my paramedic friend told me 70% of their EMTs were on mental health leave at once. Edit. I'm seeing a lot of comments from medics that COVID was the last push for them to leave. To how burnt out you are. The ones that are still there and struggling. From lab techs, nurses, and other healthcare professionals, to each and every one of you. You have my most sincere and heartfelt thanks for the jobs you have done and continue to do, and I hope we can eventually change the industry to be more in your favor. EMTs are metal F. Time perception. 2019 was 3, soon to be 4, years ago. Edit. Thank you for all the likes and award. This is the most karma I've gotten on Reddit, so kind of kicking myself for not using my main account, lol. My brain still thinks that 2019 was last year. I don't know if you've watched The Good Place, but it's like we've been stuck in the dot above the I and Jeremy bury me. This game came out in 2015. So it's a recent release. Well, no, it came out 7 years ago. What the duck? Even more ironic, the game was about a man waking up after a 9 years coma. My social work life. After living like a hermit for 2 years and working from home, it's taking me a long time to go out like before. My husband just informed me I haven't left the house in 4 days. I had no idea. Those are some rookie numbers, bro. Children's education, mental health, coping skills, and socialization. My wife is an elementary educator, and it's shocking how far kids regressed during the pandemic. By almost every measure, this generation of kids is in big trouble. I'm optimistic that the trend will right itself over time, but it's really sad to see. I just made the move from a middle school setting to an elementary school one. The kids this year are okay, but the current 4th grade class, which I'll have in 2 years, can't read. They just can't. They don't understand phonics. They can't write words longer than 2 or 3 letters. The ones who can read don't retain anything. Over 60% of them qualify for S. The next closest group we have to that is 23%, and that was unheard of when that group, currently juniors, were coming up. People in 5th and 6th grades are seriously discussing early retirement because there's just not enough support for kids that low. We don't teach basic skills like reading and writing in our grade. Our district sure as heck won't hire people to help us. The lower grade levels have their own problems coming up. It's going to be a shit show. I was recently visited by a former student. She's a bright, ambitious girl who works her ass off and always has. She didn't crack 4 digits on the SAT. She did worse on the ACT, and she said that's the trend across the board. Visiting colleges have basically told the kids that they are trying to weight standardized test scores less than ever before to support these kids because they just can't get the scores that classes before them have been able to make. The county school in our district couldn't take a yearbook pick for the 1,400 plus club on SAT. There literally weren't any kids who qualified. Not one. Heck. Some universities are doing test optional or test blind entrances. These aren't even like low tier schools. We are talking Cornell and Princeton. They're doing it out of necessity. It started when kids couldn't actually get to a testing location or take the test at home during COVID. It's now extended because of so many reasons. The benefit here is kids who are talented and bright but not good test takers are not overlooked. But things are about to get a lot more weird, I think. Education in the USA was already a major problem. The system we've got now isn't sustainable. Not with the kind of kid we have now. COVID just made a glaring issue even more obvious. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Facts. All of this, in addition to the poor academic performance of students, every teacher I know, across multiple districts, has said they are seeing behavior issues like never before. I cannot tell you how many times I've told my husband that my 5th graders are feral. One-on-one they are. Mostly amazing, sweet kids. Get them in a group, and they lose their damn minds. It's hard to learn anything when you are constantly being distracted by a kid twerking to your left and another kid flopping around on the ground to your right. It is insane. I keep praying that this mass exodus of teachers will lead to some sort of educational reform. If I have to teach 11-year-olds beginning phonics and constantly remind them that markers are for paper not faces, at least pay me a wage relative to my education and experience. My waistline and my mental well-being. It's my own fault, but I was about 6 months sober and working out daily before COVID. A few days later, half my department and my co-manager are laid off. I'm suddenly working 14-hour days in extremely stressful conditions. Walking my dog and working out took a backseat to a shot or two of Jack to calm my nerves and whatever comfort food I could get from Grubhub. Life is better now, but I haven't quite kicked all the bad habits I gained from those days. Stress affects me differently, and I'm a lot more sensitive to it than I used to be. I'm so sorry, friend. I understand about stress. I have anxiety disorder and the pandemic really set me back with my healing. Hang in there, we are all doing the best we can. You are not alone. People's driving is so out of whack. My only concern is to make it home in one piece. I have worked in insurance claims for years and years. I don't talk to people anymore, just manage repair shops. But whenever I am checking the facts of loss, for the past 3 years, things are just batshit. There are hundreds more single car accidents every year in my area than there were before the pandemic. So I'm not sure if people are drinking more or if it's a mental health thing or what. But before the pandemic it was all rear ends from commutes. Now it's people driving full speed into their garage walls and guardrails. I installed a dash cam in my car after a hit and run. Cops insurance told me there has been an uptick in those recently. Increased polarization of people politically, socially, economically. Who would have thought basic medicine like masks and vaccines would divide people so goddamn much? If this had happened 10 years ago, it would have been much different. Young people's desire to go into healthcare. We won't realize it for a generation or so, but healthcare in America was already chronically understaffed. The pandemic burning out medical professionals and discouraging young people from going into healthcare is going to have a negative effect on the quality of healthcare, not only in the United States, but other hard-hit countries, too. Combine that with the long-term health effects of COVID along with an ever more obese and chronically ill population, and yeah, it looks pretty ducking bad. Everything just feels off. People are rude. No parties or overnight hangouts. Most people nowadays keep themselves busy on their phones and TikTok. My mental health also took a hit. The time before 2020 feels like a colorful fantasy while the present one feels like a dystopian world. I've found people have really turned inward and are more focused on their own families. For those of us who are single and live alone, the negative impact of that has been huge. Every holiday for 2020 was on a weekend. Except Cinco de Mayo. That was going to be on a Tuesday, Taco Tuesday. It was going to be the best party year ever. Instead, a week before St. Patrick's Day, the world shut down. Honestly, I don't think we've ever reached closure from it. And I don't know that we ever will. I read in a psychology magazine that the human brain changed in 2 years what our brains traditionally change in 10 years. This post's answers verify that. Oh, I'll always be bitter about the pandemic ruining a full moon Saturday Halloween that was during the clock change, so it would have been 25 hours long. People seem so much shittier in large group public situations now. I don't know what it is, but etiquette in places like a movie theater used to be standard. But every experience I've had lately has been horrible. People talking, sitting there on their phones, and other just generally bad things. I've heard the same about concerts, but haven't been to as many myself. I've heard from others where people used to be polite, help each other up in pits and stuff and so on. They now just don't give a duck. It's like people are just more rude now for some reason. I'm really interested to know if this is happening everywhere or if I just live in a shitty rude ass place. Dude, people treat movie theaters like their living rooms now. It's absurd. And it's all ages too. I understand really young kids, but the parents don't even bother to control them. Last movie I saw, adults were having full-on conversations the entire time. It's rude as hell. People have completely lost their manners. When I saw Halloween, A family came in, I shit you not, with a noisy baby in a stroller. Every 20 minutes, the mom was walking back and forth in the front aisle with the baby in her arms. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.